Okay, one final thing about the difference that Heidegger is bringing to the history of metaphysics and his read on the history of metaphysics. And I want to contrast Heidegger on the one hand and his trying to think and philosophize out of art, right, out of a new perspective, versus what he calls Platonism, Plato to Nietzsche, trying to philosophize out of a technological comportment. Remember, Platonic metaphysics arises out of a technological comportment of Dasein. Heidegger's trying to philosophize out of art. He thinks metaphysics prior, science, all that is philosophizing out of techne. So what counts as really true and real is whether you can control something, right? So there's techne qua art, techne qua technology, okay, or production, if you will. Remember, for Plato, you have, let's take the shoes, because we're talking about Van Gogh's shoes. You have the form of a shoe, then you have it imaging itself forth in particular shoes, and then artwork would be a copy of those particular shoes, which are a copy of the original form. Now, an artwork is therefore twice removed and a degradation of the original, right? So in a technological framework, in a technological comportment, in a technological metaphysics like Platonism for Heidegger, the artworks are degradations. They're non-sacramental. You actually lose presence, right? On the other hand, for Heidegger, artworks are sacramental. Actually, you gain something in the mimesis of an artwork. You gain something in copying. You're opened up to something that you can't think or perceive. So you see the pair of shoes, right? You get something, but there's something hidden. You think about the pair of shoes, something is hidden, but then you represent the pair of shoes, you copy them, more reality is added. So artworks for Heidegger are sacramental in that they make something present that isn't otherwise present, okay? On the other hand, for Plato, it's as if you have to go around them and circumvent them to get to the presence of what real shoes are. Or for example, in the Symposium, you get to the great sea of beauty, right, as you go up the line, as you go up the metaphysical line, okay? So you see the difference between, in technology, in a technological framework, art is seen as a degradation, and for Heidegger, art is seen as sacramental and as enriching reality, as making it more present. Now, take, for example, I think a perfect example of this would be, notice technological mediation, because we're really talking about mimesis, copying, and mediation, representation, right? Think about this. What is a better reality? What is the better reality in a classroom right now? We're mediated now, right? I'm mediating my lectures through this technological apparatus. Isn't it a degradation? Isn't it much better being in person, right? It doesn't. This is, I think, Heidegger's point about technology. It wants pure presence. It demands. It tries to suck the life out of something. It tries to make everything more easy, right? More functional, right? Isn't this great? We can all teach online. Now, this is way before COVID. People were talking about moving everything to online. It's just going to change higher education. No, nobody likes this. It's not the same thing as being in front of somebody in class. You're seeing the same problem with churchgoers. Easter worshipers. You're seeing they much rather be in church, and they're getting in all kinds of trouble because they want to go. And I think, it's probably a bad idea. Actually, not probably, it is a bad idea to go to church right now, in the sense of, you can do it online, but it's not the same thing, not the same thing. And this is the point that you recognize with technology, it's a faux presence. There's a faux presence, right? It's not the same that when you're in person as when you're mediated through technology. This is a problem with technology. Now, it's also very convenient, and it makes things a lot easier. So I'm not throwing it away, and I don't think Heidegger is demonizing technology. He's very explicit about that. However, it's not the same thing as the kind of presence you get through the mediation of art. So there's the mediation there's the mediating presence of technology and the mediating presence of art. It's very different. Think of listening to a band live versus, I don't know, through your iPhone or something like that. It's not quite the same thing. So what I wanted to stress in this video here, this last video, well, there might be one more, is simply that the mediation and the presence involved in technology, because Heidegger becomes very interested in this, that there's a kind of weird presence in an artwork that's present in mystery or presence in an absence, the sacramental presence, right? Today is Wednesday and Easter, and one of my favorite readings is the Emmaus reading, on the road to Emmaus, where Jesus appears to his disciples, and they don't recognize him. And then they invite him in for supper because they're talking to him, and he's just, there's two disciples of his, Cleopas and another disciple, walking, and Jesus starts walking with them. This is after the resurrection, and he's like, "What are you guys talking about?" and they say, "Are you the only person in Jerusalem who doesn't know what just happened?" And he goes, "No, please go on in great detail." And they go, "The Messiah, and he goes and breaks open the scriptures and tells them all about. Don't you understand the Messiah had to die?" And they go, "This is interesting." And they walk with him for a while. Then they invite him in, and as soon as he gets in there, he says he celebrates the Eucharist. He takes the bread and blesses it. He takes the bread, gives thanks, and blesses it, and then their eyes are opened. And it says, there's a very key line, and did not our hearts burn within us when he opened the scriptures, and he was made known to us in the breaking of the bread. So there's a sacramental presence there they're talking about. I don't know why I brought that up. Oh, yeah, because the sacramental mediation, in what Heidegger's really getting at here, reveals the mystery of the presence of something that's not present, but there's a longing there, and there's a kind of fullness of the presence, and over a saturation, what Jean-Luc Marion will call the saturated phenomena. On the other hand, with technology, it's kind of a degradation of presence.